Hi everyone, Keith Arkenberg Farms. See, it's cold, snowy, blustery out here. But what I want to talk to you about today is a very important question I get about doing this scale market gardening all the time. And no one on YouTube or on the internet or in books really want to answer this question. And this question is one thing, it's how profitable is it to be a market gardener? So today I'm going to break down the numbers, go from our perspective in our size farm, which is a traditional market garden style farm with no wholesaling involved other than just a little bit here and there, and that's not a big part of our business. So I'm going to take you inside because honestly I don't want to be out here. So let me show you. So the question of how profitable is market gardening? Like I said, I get this question all the time. Most recently, I got it from Jeffrey. Thank you, Jeffrey, for that. So I want to kind of break it down with our numbers. It's not really dependent on what you're actually making per year until you start scaling really big to how much you're actually trying to make per year, if that makes sense. So the way I look at it is I need to know how many people I need to achieve a certain income level. I know how much is actually paid out for wages, which would be the farm's profit in the year if it's just you, or if you have employees, what you're paying them and what you're paying yourself. Very important to know, these numbers are all taken giving the exact same pay level to everybody across the board because it really simplifies things in the long run. The other thing we'll go over is kind of some of the higher input values I have on my farm because of our location. So the first part is I'll break down this into some months real quick and get right to it. And don't forget, head over to arkenbergfarms.com, scroll down near the bottom. We've got the Market Gardening Farm School and Digital Tools and Training. This is where you can join the Market Gardening Farm School, sign up for seed time for free, request consulting, and purchase a bunch of other spreadsheets and tools for your farm. Go check it out. And don't forget to head over to our Amazon influencer store, amazon.com/shop/farmerkeith, for all the products we use on our farm that are easily available on Amazon. We have them categorized into the different categories of supplies that you will need on your farm. And these are the ones that we use and order for our farm. By purchasing through here, it helps support the content we create. Now I've broken this down into a couple different monthly sections that kind of mirror our sales and our hours per week on the farm. First would be April and May. So we're zoned 6B, Northeast Kansas, almost dead center of the country. First markets are in April. In May they start to kick up, and then we got June through August, which is all of our summertime stuff where things really start cranking. Then we start cranking back down September and October. And then basically November through March, we do our overwinter sales. Not really much going on, much simpler time. We're gonna look at this at two basic income goals that we're trying to achieve. And this is gross sales, nothing off the top, exactly what you're bringing back from the farmer's market as your total sales number. So we'll look at 40,000 and a 60,000 example. Again, if you get smaller, say 20,000, your numbers might be a little different. And if you go over that about 120,000, like I was talking earlier, things start to scale a little bit more, not as much moving around, more of team go out and do a task instead of one person trying to harvest a bunch of crops or multiple people on a team trying to harvest a bunch of crops, but not all of everything, so they're not spending the whole day harvesting radishes. They're gonna harvest 6 or 7 things throughout the day, so there's a lot more transit time moving back and forth throughout your farm. So, our first period, which would be our spring plant basically, our beginning of our sales, so at about 40K, you're looking at about 2 people. Now, when you scale up to 60, you're looking at about 3 people for this time period. So 80 hours, 120 hours. We're talking 40-hour work weeks here. Next, you get into your June and August through August era, and you're now up to 3 people in the field. 120 hours a week to achieve this. Now, this is a mixture in between running 2 farmers markets, post-harvest area, and all of your field activities as well. Go to 60, we're at 4.5. So basically we're taking a 1.5 multiple, so an extra 50% of labor to get up to this next 20,000. Now, we get back to the fall time, we start to scale back down to about the same as April through May. So we're 2 and 3 people respectively. And then over the winter, things really slow down. We grow throughout the winter, and that's what we found to be some of the most profitable times per year. And that's exclusively because I already grew everything. All I'm doing is harvesting a little bit here and there and selling, and that's it. So we got about a half and one full-time person for the 60,000. And again, those kind of vary a little bit. Now, to break this down even further, I looked at the sales that we had during these specific time periods, and mainly the sales during our prime season, which would be right in here. And if we take our total sales divided by the total hours, it'll give us our total sales per hour of labor worked, again, including all aspects of the farm. So what I pretty much found out, which I was kind of shocked actually to dig this deep into it, 1 hour of work equals $19 worth of sales. So that's a very, very important number right here. This is your most important number as an original goal. Now, this is not your profit. This is how much income you can potentially earn off of each employee working an hour each. So the next thing to kind of consider is pretty much where we've been pretty standard for the past couple years is we're about 65% goes towards the cost of labor, which again includes all labor, including yourself. The one aspect I do not include into this is any administration time, because sitting around and doing financials and bookwork and all that other stuff is another task, but you really can't afford to include administration until you get up into those larger scale farms, because you can't afford to have somebody in the office all day crunching books and numbers and all that stuff. That has to be kind of be done in your free time, and as a business owner, that is actually your responsibility. Same thing with doing advertising. If you're getting down deep and doing emails, if you're just shooting off little quick text on your phone, that kind of stuff, that would fall into this time because you're really not wasting all that much time. So we'll look at the case where you're at 65%. We'll just call it your profit. Say that's all the wages and everything potentially can be earned. So we take that number right there, the 65%, we multiply that by the $19 that an employee is bringing in, and then you have to look and see how much is left to physically pay the employee, including yourself as the employee. And this is the most important number of what you actually earn per hour of actually working. Take 65 times, say $19, then you come up with the number of $12.35. So that, at least at our farm, is the max I can pay anybody, including myself, to work on my farm. Then you've got another consideration as well, which would be paying your self-employment taxes. When you do your taxes, you come up with your total profit for the year, all your costs, all your materials, everything drops out of that. That cost is your 35% here, which would be just the physical running of your farm. So with your $12.35, you've got to look at what you'll actually take home. And what it basically comes down to is right about $10 per hour is what your take-home base pay is. Now, again, you're holding back roughly $2 for taxes alone in case you need it. You don't always need it, because farms have a great way of being able to really have a lot of write-offs, especially when you have a vehicle that you're running around. The mileage really will drop your income levels down dramatically just from driving back and forth to market and doing other chores, running in and out of town, all that good stuff. So next, we're going to look at what it takes to achieve $1,000 in sales each week. So by taking the total sales during these time periods, which came up with that $19 per hour that you can earn to the farm from each hour of labor, we want to do $1,000 a week in sales. So we take that 1,000, we divide it by 19, and we come out with about 50 hours per week to achieve $1,000 in sales. Now, again, this is including with us where we have two farmers markets we go to, one that's really good and one that's not so good. And the other thing this is also showing as well is the fact that you have to be very, very efficient with your time, and you have to almost sell everything. These numbers come out of my newer model that we've been on the past 2 years, where we've really eliminated any overages whatsoever. We might have a little bit here and there, but we're not harvesting 50 pounds and selling 10 or 20 at the farmer's market. I've learned to scale everything to these numbers and really reel them back to where at the farmer's market that ends at noon, we're trying to be sold out by 11 o'clock. So that's a really hard mindset for people to get into, because I always think we got to have more stuff to sell more. But you really kind of want to do the opposite. You want to have the exact amount to sell and not take anything home with you unless you have another market, but you should have never brought it out of the walk-in in the first place if you're going to take it to another market. So these are some very, very important numbers here that you really have to focus on. Now, 50 hours per week, one person, no problem. $1,000 in sales every week during our prime seasons from April to October. That is extremely doable. Now, I know there are a large range of profitability numbers, or I guess you call it wage numbers, of what is paid out to employees versus the gross sales of the farm. Now, most farmers estimate a 50% number. 50% of every dollar being spent on the farm is spent on wages, and then at the end of the year, you're at zero profit, zero loss, just dead even. We achieve 65, which is a little better, but I know there's farms out there that achieve a lot higher. And that's because, for us anyways, we're scaled to be a larger farm, and we also live in a suburb area where the cost of our water is so ridiculous. For instance, last year, our water alone, so our H2O, 5% of our total sales number, we paid for water alone. We're not on a well, we can't get a well, well, we probably could, but it wouldn't pay for itself for another 20 years. So is it really feasible to purchase a well and go through all the cost to have it make a return when I'll be roughly 60, 65 years old? Probably not, because by then I probably won't be at a scale to need it. Next is our power. Power has been slowly climbing through the years. It's been pretty constant. And we're looking at, again, about that 5% number. Now, places that have less infrastructure, I mean, we're in a huge pack building. We don't heat it, but we've got lights. We've got a commercial walk-in behind us. We're running grow racks for our starts. We're running freezers as well. During the summer, we're also running a couple reach-ins. So we have a lot of power input here. And that's why these numbers might be higher than what most people see. But for us, water and power, it's almost 10% of what our sales. If I could chop that down to 5%, we'd be up near that 70% right there that I could take and divide it out to pay employees more. Now, the one thing I have learned through the years, well, basically just this year after looking back at numbers really strongly, is that I probably don't need to save back that 20% for self-employment taxes, because there's so many write-offs that come through having a farming business that realistically you want to save back around 10% of what you're paying out to you. That seems like a pretty safe number, which would raise this up to 11. Now, I know that's not a lot of money in a lot of areas, but we're also in the middle of the country. Our cost of living's lower, our expected salaries are lower, everything is just lower. we could raise our price of our produce to try to make more, to move this number up. But in our market, it will not stand that. When you try doing that, then you sell less and you're taking home more, having more waste. Sometimes it's better to sell more than it is to sell less at a higher price point. Now, the final thing is infrastructure. This is where it's tricky, because every time you're investing in your farm, you're taking from this pool right here and lowering what you're actually getting to have left over to pay your employees. So if you're buying greenhouses and tractors and trucks and trailers and huge buildings like this, there's not going to be any money left to pay employees. You are going to consistently lose money every year. The real trick is what we've been doing for years is grants. NCRS equip grants. This building we're standing in was actually a COVID grant for farms specifically to increase their infrastructures. It was a very good grant. It paid for the whole building, the walk-in, the plumbing, the wash area, everything you see that is shot inside of here was paid for with that grant. Now the caveat was they didn't give it to me until November, and I had to have it done by January 1st. So think about that. Building a whole 30 by 40 building in a matter of about a month and a half. So that's where it has, there's goods and bads that come with grants. All of our greenhouses out there, a lot of our plastic mulch, landscape fabric. I'm still working on the irrigation one. Those have all been paid through NCRS equip grants. I know there's some issues with these right now, but don't worry, they're not going to go away. They're built into the farm bills. So go seek out your local NCRS agent. That is how you get your infrastructure. You could pay for it over 30 years and knock a couple % off here and get paid a little less, or like a lot of market gardeners do, their first season, they don't take any pay for themselves, but they're also not working a $1,000 a week farm. But they take all that money at the end of the season and go out and purchase a small tiller, or maybe find a used tractor, or rent equipment, or small propagation greenhouses. It's all a slow building process. We did not have a farm like this when we started out. Nowhere near like this. If you watch videos from me 4 or 5 years ago, we were much smaller. We grew the infrastructure up to a level that we really wanted to exceed at, but over time I've discovered that we are actually more of this size of farm than what I have it scaled up to, so it makes it a little bit more expensive to run it. But also I don't want to run a market in Topeka, run another one in Kansas City, which is an hour away, all over the place, trying here and there and everywhere. I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm trying to keep it what's best for myself to work and not overwork myself or my team either. I mean, we are all one unit as a farm, and we have to work cohesively and make it to where it works. Very important stuff here. So I hope this answers anyone's questions ever about the profitability of market gardening, because all the people that write the books talk about how much they make per acre, not how much it takes an hour to produce that amount. So really food for thought. You can take these numbers and play around with them any way you want, like your $1,000, 50 hours. Gives you a good idea of how much labor you're going to need out there. And when it gets to the middle of the summer and all of a sudden you have 80 hours to work in a week because you weren't paying attention and you were scaled for here instead of here, you'll know why these are so very important. Trust me, I've done it before. So, as always, hope y'all liked your Saturday. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank y'all. Have a good day.